In the annals of organized crime, few names inspire as much fear and revulsion as Sam Destefano, known as Mad Sam and the Devil in Disguise. From the streets of Chicago's Little Italy to the inner circles of the outfit, Destefano carved a bloody path that would make even the most hardened criminals quake in their boots. This isn't just the story of a mobster. It's the tale of a true psychopath who found his calling in the underworld. Now, Destefano wasn't just violent, he reveled in cruelty, turning torture into an art form that shocked even his fellow gangsters. But now how did this unhinged guy become an integral part of one of America's most powerful crime syndicates? And what led to his ultimate downfall at the hands of his own criminal associates? Join us as we take a look into the twisted mind of Sam Destefano, the man who brought a new level of brutality to the Chicago outfit. Thank you for joining us at Apex Crime Lords, and we're about to take you on a journey into the dark heart of organized crime. Warning: the following video is meant for educational purposes only and should not be taken otherwise. Apex Crime Lords does not condone, encourage, or glorify the actions of the individuals covered in this program. Viewer discretion is advised. Keep watching until the end to see what's next on Apex Crime Lords. Sam Destefano was born on September 13, 1909 in Streator, Illinois, a small town about 80 miles southwest of Chicago. His parents, Samuel Sr. and Rosalie, were Italian immigrants who had come to America seeking a better life. But for young Sam, the American dream would take a decidedly darker turn. Destefano's childhood was marked by poverty and instability. His father worked as a laborer, struggling to support his large family of 10 children. From an early age, Sam showed signs of volatility and aggression that would later define his adult life. He was known for his quick temper and his willingness to fight anyone who crossed him, regardless of their size or age. The Destefano family moved to Chicago's Little Italy neighborhood when Sam was still a boy. It was here, in the crowded tenements and bustling streets, that Sam would get his first taste of the criminal life. By his teenage years, Destefano was already deeply involved in petty crimes, like theft, extortion, and protection rackets. He quickly gained a reputation as someone who would do anything for money, no matter how brutal or degrading. But it wasn't just his willingness to commit violent acts that set Destefano apart. It was the obvious pleasure he took in causing pain and fear in others. Even as a young man, there was something off about Sam Destefano. His mood swings were legendary, and his rages were terrifying. One moment he could be charming and generous, the next he would fly into a violent fury over the slightest perceived insult. This unpredictability made him both feared and valued in the criminal underworld. I mean, after all, who better to intimidate rivals and collect debts than a man who seemed to have no limits to his cruelty? Destefano's early criminal career was a patchwork of various illegal activities. He ran insurance scams, worked as a pimp, and dabbled in loan sharking. But it was in this last endeavor that he found his true calling. Destefano discovered that he had a talent for extracting money from people, whether through charm, intimidation, or just outright torture. And in Chicago's underworld, that was a very valuable skill indeed. Sam Destefano's rise in the Chicago outfit wasn't so much as a climb as it was a bloody scramble. He didn't so much rise through the ranks as he carved a niche for himself through sheer brutality and unpredictability. By the 1950s, Destefano had established himself as the outfit's premier loan shark and torture specialist. His methods were so extreme that even hardened mobsters flinched at the details. Destefano just didn't break bones or rough people up. He turned torture into a grotesque art form. He was known to use power drills, blowtorches, and even ice picks on his victims. But perhaps his most infamous tool was an old dentist chair that he kept in the basement. It was here that he would strap down debtors and slowly torture them, often over the course of days. Now, what made Destefano particularly valuable to the outfit was his complete lack of fear or moral restraint. He would take on jobs that other mobsters considered too risky or too depraved. You need someone to make an example of a rival? You send Mad Sam. Want to strike terror into the heart of a stubborn business owner? Destefano was your guy. But now Destefano wasn't happy with just being the outfit's boogeyman. He was ambitious. He was always looking for ways to expand his influence and his profits. He branched out into legitimate businesses, including a successful used car dealership. Now, of course, these legitimate enterprises were just fronts for his loan sharking and other illegal activities. Destefano's power grew to the point where he was associating with some of the biggest names in the Chicago outfit. He worked closely with Felix Milwaukee Phil Alderizio and was known to be on good terms with Sam Giancana, the outfit's top boss. But even as he reached the heights of power in the Chicago underworld, Destefano's mental instability was becoming more and more apparent. He would fly into rages at the slightest provocation, attacking his friends and enemies alike. His paranoia reached epic proportions, leading him to bug his own home and carry a gun with him at all times, even to bed. Destefano's behavior became so erratic that many in the outfit began to see him as a liability. But his usefulness as an enforcer and his ability to generate huge profits through his loan sharking operation kept him in the game, at least for a little while. Now, maintaining power in the Chicago outfit was a delicate balance of fear, respect, and results. For Sam Destefano, 2 out of 3 wasn't bad. Fear? Oh, he had that in spades. Results? His loan sharking operation was bringing in millions. But respect? That was a little trickier for a guy known as Mad Sam. Destefano's grip on power was maintained through a combination of extreme violence and financial success. His loan sharking operation was one of the most profitable in the outfit's history. He charged exorbitant interest rates, sometimes as high as 20% per week, and was ruthless when he came to collect. But it wasn't just debtors who feared Destefano. His own crew lived in constant terror of his mood swings and sadistic whims. He was known to turn on his own men at the slightest provocation, subjecting them to the same tortures he reserved for his victims. This made loyalty a little tricky in Destefano's organization. Guys worked for him out of fear, rather than respect or admiration. But now fear can be a powerful motivator, and for years it kept the Destefano operation running smoothly. Destefano's position in the outfit was further solidified by his willingness to take on the most gruesome and high-risk jobs. When other mobsters would refuse a particularly brutal hit, Destefano would step in. His complete lack of empathy or moral restraint made him the perfect tool for the outfit's dirtiest work. But now Destefano's usefulness to the outfit came at a price. His erratic behavior and his love for unnecessary violence began to draw unwanted attention from law enforcement. He seemed to revel in the notoriety, often bragging about his crimes and taunting police officers. Now, this bravado may have impressed some of his criminal associates, but it made many in the outfit very nervous. Organized crime thrives in the shadows and secrecy, and Destefano seemed determined to drag it into the light. As the 1960s wore on, Destefano's grip on power began to slip. His mental state deteriorated further, and his paranoia reached new heights. He began to suspect everyone around him of betrayal, including his closest associates and even his own family members. Destefano's unpredictability made him a wild card in an organization that prized control and discretion above everything else. The very qualities that made him valuable to the outfit, his ruthlessness, his lack of moral boundaries, were now becoming liabilities. The stage was set for a fall, and in the cutthroat world of the Chicago outfit, falls tended to be fatal. The beginning of the end for Sam Destefano came in 1963, with the elimination of a small-time criminal named Leo Foreman. Foreman had worked as a collector for Destefano's loan sharking operation, but the two had a falling out over money. In typical Destefano fashion, he decided to make an example out of Foreman. The elimination was brutal, even by Destefano's standards. Foreman was lured to a house owned by Destefano's brother, where he was subjected to hours of torture before finally meeting his end. Destefano, along with his brother, Mario, and associate Tony Spilotro, were all implicated in the crime. This elimination would prove to be Destefano's undoing. The brutality of the crime and the sloppy way it was carried out drew intense scrutiny from law enforcement. For the first time, Destefano found himself facing serious legal trouble that his outfit connections couldn't easily make disappear. As the heat intensified, cracks began to appear in Destefano's organization. His erratic behavior and paranoia had alienated many of his associates, and now they saw an opportunity to rid themselves of a dangerous liability. In 1965, Destefano was convicted of conspiracy and received a 3 to 5 year sentence. Now this was a pretty light sentence given his crimes, but it was enough to significantly weaken his position in the outfit. When Destefano was in prison, control of his loan sharking operation fell to others, and he never fully regained his former power. When he got released, Destefano found himself increasingly isolated. Many of his former associates now avoided him, fearing his unpredictable rages and the law enforcement attention that he had attracted. The final blow came in 1973. Destefano, his brother Mario, and Tony Spilotro were indicted for the foreman elimination. The outfit, seeing Destefano as a liability, decided to cut their losses. On April 14, 1973, Sam Destefano was found in his garage, eliminated by multiple gunshots. The prime suspect was Tony Spilotro, Destefano's former protege and fellow defendant in the foreman case. It was a fitting end for a guy who had lived by violence to die by the hands of it. Destefano's elimination was as much a practical decision as a punishment. I'm sure you've heard, dead men can't testify, and with Destefano gone, the case against Spilotro and Mario Destefano weakened considerably. In the end, Mad Sam Destefano's legendary brutality and lack of self-control proved to be his undoing. The very qualities that made him useful to the outfit ultimately made him too dangerous to keep around. The story of Sam Destefano is more than just a tale of mob violence and criminal enterprise. It's a chilling look into the mind of a true psychopath, a man whose sadistic impulses found a perfect outlet in the underworld of organized crime. Destefano's legacy in the annals of mob history is a complex one. On one hand, he was undeniably effective at what he did. His loan sharking operation was one of the most profitable in the outfit's history, and his willingness to take on the most gruesome tasks made him a valuable asset for years. But Destefano's brutality and instability ultimately made him a liability to the very organization he served. His story is a stark reminder of the limits of usefulness in the world of organized crime. No matter how effective you are, no matter how much money you bring in, if you become more trouble than you're worth, your days are numbered. Destefano's life and death also highlights the often overlooked psychological aspects of organized crime. While we often think of mobsters as cold, calculating figures, Destefano reminds us that the criminal underworld can also be a haven for those with severe mental disturbances. In a weird, twisted kind of a way, the mob provided an outlet for Destefano's sadistic impulses, allowing him to indulge his darkest urges under the guise of business. Up next, strap on your helmets and rev up those engines. Next time on Apex Crime Lords, we're hitting the open road with the top 5 most notorious biker gangs in America. From the Hells Angels to the Banditos, we'll explore the leather-clad world of the outlaw motorcycle clubs. What drives these modern-day road warriors? And how do they keep up such fearsome reputations? And what happens when rival gangs just don't get along? Get ready for a wild ride through the gritty underbelly of biker culture. The road to hell is paved with chrome and chaos. You won't want to miss this one. Now, as we look back on the life of Sam Destefano, we're left with some uncomfortable questions about the nature of evil and the thin line between sanity and madness. Was Destefano a product of his environment, shaped by the brutal world of organized crime? Or was he simply a mobster who found his natural habitat in the underworld? These are questions without easy answers, but they're ones we've got to grapple with if we hope to understand the complex dynamics of organized crime and the individuals who populate its ranks. The legacy of Mad Sam Destefano serves as a dark chapter in the mob history. It's a cautionary tale of what happens when unbridled sadism meets organized crime. His story continues to fascinate and repel us in equal measure, a reminder of the depths of human cruelty and the high price of a life lived without a conscience. How will Sam Destefano be remembered? That's up for you to decide. Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. And please, give us a like, comment, and a share. Until next time, stay safe and stay dangerous.